Chapter 5. A Taste of Terror. Akira dashed forward. Her plan was to grab Ryuga by the hand and make a quick escape. Things were quickly spiraling out of control, and they would only get worse at this rate.
"Ryuga!"
Akira shouted as she moved, hands outstretched. But what she saw was enough to make her blood run cold.
What's that?"
Akira said, stopping in her tracks as she pointed towards Ryuga.
You crazy piece of shit! You broke his hands! You just cost the basketball team our shot at nationals!
Benji screamed as he got to his feet. He dashed wildly towards Ryuga, intent on striking the boy with all of his might, but he never made it. Just as the punch was about to make impact, Benji's arm went flying. The spray of blood mist spattered all over both Ryuga as well as Benji. Both struggled to understand exactly what happened, but only one person there realized what was going on.
"Oh my god, Ryuga! Ryuga! Come over here, please! Now!"
Akira pleaded. Her voice was filled with urgency. She fought to keep her cool, but Ryuga had never heard such a desperate plea from anyone before. He didn't question, nor disobey. Instead, he slowly began to walk away from Benji and move towards Akira.
"Hurry, please!"
Akira said, her voice restrained to the best of her ability.
"Nobody move! Don't move!"
Akira said as she finally grabbed Ryuga's hand. Ryuga immediately noticed her eyes, which were wide and had taken on a purple tint. Akira's breathing was wild and unsteady, as if she were fighting to take even breaths.
"What?
Benji finally said as he tried to register what happened.
What did you do, you fucking psycho? My arm! You took my arm! Benji! Benji, stop! Benji!"
Akira said loudly, trying desperately to get through to Benji, but it was no use. He was in shock at the fact of having lost his arm. His mind was gone, and all he could manage was rage, anger.
"I'm gonna kill you!"
Benji shouted as he dashed haphazardly towards Ryuga, and that's when another spray of blood pierced the air. This time Ryuga managed just a glimpse of what happened. It looked as if something invisible had cleaved the air, striking Benji along his back. The young boy immediately flew forward, landing on his face as he skidded along the ground. Portions of his blood stood suspended in the air at first glance, before Ryuga realized the blood spatter was clinging to some sort of invisible creature. He immediately grabbed Akira and pushed her behind him.
"Holy shit!"
he whispered to himself as he watched the creature's motions. The area he'd been ambushed in had asphalt, dirt, and grass patches nearby. Benji's blood trickled down in thick blots as the creature prowled silently. Having noticed its presence, it was like Ryuga was beginning to sense more and more of the space it occupied.
"Can you see it?"
Akira whispered, her grip tightening around Ryuga's arm.
"Not completely. I mean, I can feel it. I know something's there, but I can't see it,"
Ryuga said.
"I can,"
Akira replied.
"It's like a giant dog with scales and huge claws. It looks more like a lizard than anything, and I can tell it's not friendly. It's moving right towards us, Ryuga. We have to get out of here."
Linda, who'd been in shock up until now, had managed to find her voice.
"What the fuck is going on?"
She screamed, panic heightening her demeanor.
"Shh! Don't move if you want to live,"
Ryuga commanded.
"You did this! What did you do to Benji, you damn psycho?"
Linda began to shout and scream as tears streamed down her cheeks, and that's when the creature reacted, lashing out and clawing at her swiftly. The blow was little more than a cat's paw, a playful swipe that any kitten would use to swat away a toy. And yet, the force of the blow both broke Linda's arm and knocked her several dozen feet away. She landed with a hard thud, face down, unconscious. The two girls next to Linda immediately screamed out and turned to run.
"Wait, don't leave us!"
Jin screamed as he too made an effort to run. Ryuga, Tarid, and the remaining Jockstrap Squad member watched in horror as each of them were mowed down mercilessly. Akira could only watch as the creature bounded towards them, clawing each of her classmates down with ease, sinking its teeth into the boy and cleaving the head from the girl's shoulders.
"Help me! Tarid, help!"
Jin pleaded as the creature snapped his body in two and tossed his corpse to the side.
"I think I'm going to be sick,"
Ryuga gasped between gulps. Akira was too scared to move, paralyzed by the sight before her.
"Where is it?"
Ryuga asked, but Akira wouldn't speak, as if her voice was trapped in her throat.
Akira!
Ryuga repeated desperately, but to no avail. Akira's only response was to whimper, and by then it was too late. Ryuga could feel the heat from the creature's breath as it bared down upon them. His mind was now racing. With Akira paralyzed from fear and half the people here torn to shreds, was there anything he could do to survive the situation? Based on how quickly the creature pounced upon his classmates, there would be no way to escape. Perhaps if they could run inside, but even that seemed impossible.
Damn it, just when my life was getting good.
Ryuga thought to himself as he clenched his fist.
Akira, I want you to run and don't look back,
he said as he mentally prepared himself for what came next.
Ryuga, I can't. My legs won't move. I'm so scared,
Akira said, tears streaming down her cheeks as she buried her face into the middle of his back.
It's okay. I just need to hold it off for a few minutes. If you can run towards a building, I think you can do it,
he whispered. Heat from the creature's body revealed just how close the invisible threat had come.
3, 2... Ryuga!
Akira whimpered.
Go!
Ryuga shouted as he dashed forward with all of his might. Based on his observation of the creature's footprints and the blood spatter, Ryuga believed the creature's face to be in a certain area. He would bet his life on a single strike to blind his foe. To this end, he slipped out of his jacket within the first few steps and lunged forward, burying his fist where he believed the creature's eye to be. His estimate was rewarded as he felt his fist strike something soft, no doubt his target. As he felt the creature lurch and thrash, next Ryuga tossed his overcoat over what he assumed to be the creature's face. With this, he felt satisfied in buying Akira enough time to escape. He turned to run himself, only to realize Akira had never moved. She was frozen in place, too petrified with fear to even flee.
Akira!
Ryuga reached out to the young girl, only to be swatted hard by the creature's massive claw. Ryuga could feel the wind knocked out of him as large, sharp claws dug into its body and lifted him off his feet. For a moment, all he could see was the clouds as Ryuga spiraled upwards into the sky and landed on the ground with a hard thud. As the injured young man fought to breathe, all he could do was behold the sight before him. Somehow, the creature's camouflage had been undone. Its left eye was bleeding profusely from his strike, and much like Akira described, the creature looked like a very large dog in some aspects. Unlike a dog, however, it was covered in greenish-blue scales which resembled armor plating more than anything else. The creature's reptilian face reminded him of a dragon, at least what a dragon could be imagined to look like. Its other black and red eyeball focused on Ryuga for just a moment before turning its attention towards Akira.
No!
Ryuga thought to himself. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. No doubt one of his lungs might be punctured. All strength escaped him as he watched the creature begin to draw closer to Akira, skulking towards her, its intent to kill made plain for all to see. Akira could do little else but stand planted in fear, her arms covering her face as she sobbed.
Akira, I'm sorry. I don't have the strength. I can't do anything. I can't.
It was around this time that Ryuga's memories began to replay in his mind. During this time of distress, he thought about his mother most of all. Perhaps it was being on the verge of death that unlocked the memory. Or perhaps it was the desperation he felt. Ryuga began to recall, in detail, the night his mother died. The images came in flashes, and one thing that stood out to him was a silhouette skulking in the darkness. Jaws which closed around his mother as her arms stretched out to his, her face as she shoved him away and the creature dragged her away into the night. A creature that looked just like...
You! It was you!
Ryuga said as he got to his feet, tears streaming down his face.
You killed her!
Ryuga could feel his control slipping. It was as if a great power was flowing into him, consuming and swallowing him whole. The immensity of it was comparable to a vast ocean of stars. Suddenly, Ryuga was in a dark, empty place, foreign, yet familiar. He glanced around, unsure as to what actually happened, and after a few seconds, he realized that he wasn't alone.
You're not supposed to be here yet,
A child's voice said, causing Ryuga to turn around. There, in the midst of all the darkness, was a young boy. He looked to be no more than 6 or 7 years of age. Unlike most children, 2 small horns protruded from the navy blue hair which covered his head. He was dressed in something out of an old martial arts film, like something a monk would wear. The moment he laid eyes upon the small child behind him, the kid leapt upwards and plucked Ryuga's forehead. In that instant, he felt an immense force pushing him backwards. It felt as if he was being forced through the cosmos, as an intense pulling sensation drew him back to his senses. And just like that, he was standing next to Akira again, confused.
Ryuga, are you okay? Are you back?
Akira said, a look of concern on her face as tears streamed down her cheeks.
What happened? Where is it?
He said, frantically gazing around. It was then that Ryuga noticed the creature lying in a heap on the ground, several meters from where he and Akira were now standing.
What? I don't understand what's going on.
Ryuga said as Akira rushed to hug him, burying her face in his chest, a sign of her relief. Ryuga searched his mind for any recollection of the missing time, but he couldn't recall anything. Akira was in no state to answer, and it seemed the danger had passed.
I was so worried! You looked so angry!
Akira said suddenly as she gazed up at Ryuga.
Ryuga
began, but he faltered when he saw the look of concern in her eyes. He recognized the meaning of that look so long ago from his own experiences. It was the look of someone who was scared of losing something precious.
I'm sorry,
Ryuga said. It seemed appropriate, although he couldn't quite piece together why. The two shared a long moment in which they simply stood, embracing each other. It would have been quite nice if it weren't for the blood and death surrounding them. Still, he felt he owed it to Akira in some way, so he continued to indulge her. Ryuga couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. After a few moments, his senses proved accurate.
It's not dead!
An injured Tarad screamed as he struggled to get to his feet and run away.
What?
Ryuga shouted, once more placing Akira behind him. Indeed, the creature had now wobbled to its feet and was moving towards them, or at least attempting to do so. There was a large chunk of flesh which appeared to have been clawed out, missing from its side. It was all the creature could do to crawl towards them.
Let's get away from here,
Ryuga said as he took Akira by the hand. The two began to run, but by then it was too late. The creature, sensing that they might try to flee, had already prepared its final surprise. It began to glow, enveloped in a bright white light as electricity began to surge and crackle across its skin. In an instant, this light expanded into a massive sphere of light, capturing everything around it within its influence. In the blink of an eye, they had both been swallowed by the creature's devious blow.